Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We have a really great show this week because I'm so excited. It folds into so many different dimensions. But we have Laura Brown, a Minnesota Vixen, not only a former player, but now the owner, along with her husband, James. And if you haven't been paying attention to this league, it's been around and this team for a while. They even have another team that we'll get into, a little feeder team, which means their success. So it actually has even more juice now, thanks to Whoopi Goldberg. So we'll get into that in a second.
This is Dawn of Sports. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Service Studios. I want to thank our producer, Alex Haugen. Remind you, if you like the show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And thanks to our sponsors, Rudy Luther Toyota, longtime supporter of women's sports in the Twin Cities, Minnesota Masonic Charities, another great Minnesota company doing good work, and Natrium. And as Dawn knows, I get excited when I talk about Natrium. I'll tell you more about them later.
Your best friends, Natrium.
My best friends.
Yes. Well, I want to really introduce Laura Brown because I love football, one of my many loves, but to see women, not only, we hear so much about flag football that young girls are getting involved in, Laura, but this is professional women's tackle football at its finest. And it is no joke. I know I've known some players throughout the years and have gone to the practices and the games, and you've made it to 4 national championships. This team is a sight to behold, and it's starting to get some traction. How has it been for you lately now that people are like, we love the Vixen?
Oh, it's been absolutely great. And thank you guys for having me up today. But it's been wonderful. I mean, more and more when we encounter people on the street, they're like, oh, I've been trying to get to a game. I follow you on social media. I run into random people everywhere wearing the merchandise, and I ask them, what player do you know on the team? Well, nobody. I'm just following the team. And that's been a huge leap for us in our growth.
Yeah, that is, because it would be like Red for a long time, right?
Exactly. One of our greats.
Yes. And in the Hall of Fame, is
yes,
that right?
Yes.
Right?
We actually have 4 former players that are in the Women's Semi-Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Fantastic.
With Red Bryant, Michelle Brown, Jody Raylander, and then also Emily Sundberg, I believe, was entered.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that's a huge feather in your cap.
Yeah,
isn't
that
it?
has been. And basically, I mean, with the Vixen, it's been a great legacy for us because the team was started in 1999. It's the founder of modern women's football. It was started with one other team, the Lake Michigan Minx. And out of that, those 2 teams just traveled the country and played each other just over and over and over again. And the Vixen, I'm sorry to say, ended up losing every game they played that year.
Really?
Yes, they did. So we came from very humble starts. And out of that, though, grew a league. And the Vixen have just continued on since then and continuing to lead the growth of women's sports today.
And you were a player. What year
was.
did you start, and how did you get into it?
Let's see. I started, I want to say fall of 2012 is when I tried out. So 2013 was my rookie year. I got into it. I ran into just a random encounter with somebody who had played for the team. And we were actually standing in a cafeteria. We had a Viking preseason game going, both watching it and kind of, just connected over watching the Vikings. We both grown up hardcore Viking fans. And she said, well, there's a women's team. I said, no, there's not. And she said, yeah, there is. And she said, you should go. And so, I immediately went home, started Googling some things, finding out anything I could on the team. And they had an open practice coming up. So non-committal, just go. And I thought, I've been a diehard Viking fan my entire life. How fun would it be to get out there and hit some pads, catch a few footballs, see what it's like from their perspective, right? Because you sit there as a fan, you're like, well, why didn't you make that catch? And it gives you a whole nother perspective once you start playing. So I went and I got hooked. I had a fantastic, and they said, tryouts are in 2 weeks. You need to come back. And I was like, no, I don't think so. That's not me. And they said, no, you showed us something out here. Come back. So I came back in 2 weeks and made the team.
Now,
So
were you an athlete before? Had you played backyard football with,
I had.
growing up with neighbors or what?
yeah, just about any organized sport there was. I did beg my parents in fourth grade to let me play football, and that wasn't happening. I even bargained. I'll just let me kick. I'll be the kicker. And so I played, but soccer, volleyball, swimming. Got into golf for a while. Just if it was a sport, I was out there doing it. I did not want to be in a chair sitting inside at all. I guess I shouldn't say that. I do love my books. I do love to read. But besides that, I mean, sports is really where it was at for me as a kid. I love the adventure of it. I love the camaraderie. I grew up kind of a shy kid, didn't really want to talk a lot. As you can tell, public speaking, I love, right? And so sports was a great way for me as a child to fit in. Was a great way for me to be part of a group without having to stand out too much. And it gave me something immediately to connect to other people about. And I think that's one of the reasons sports is just so big in America. And because it's not the same as watching regular TV or a movie because it's interactive with your friends. Mm-hmm. You can relate to other people and we can all feel, the wins and the losses and the highs and the lows. And so it's one of those things that really brings people together across generations and across all of our differences. And so for me as a kid, that was just a perfect spot for me to just slide right into and excel.
You brought up two things. First of all, let's go with the young woman, going into sports. And on this podcast, we talk about it a lot that, yes, you're out there and you get to be athletic, but it brings you out of your shell. But it helps you in so many different aspects of life, right? You have a doctorate in pharmacy, you work at a hospital. But sports, people don't see how it does, but it helps that, right? It helps with your confidence.
Absolutely. There's a very high correlation to C-suite executives and who played sports growing up. And it teaches you a lot of discipline. You have to be there on time. You have to be doing the work. If you want to be successful, you're putting in time outside of it. You're having to study your playbooks. But I think beyond that, it also, especially team sports, it teach you how to interact and get along with people that you might not normally get along with because they're your teammate. So how am I going to make this work? This person's my left wing or they're my whatever they are. Maybe it's my center. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. And if you want to win as a team, you learn how to work with people and you learn a lot of different communication styles and you see a lot of different examples laid out before you. I mean, I've had the screaming coaches. I've had the coaches that were the father figure. I've had the coaches that were your best friend. And so you see a lot of different leadership styles as you grow up. And I think that's also for someone who pays attention to things like that. You start realizing what kind of leader would I be? What kind of coach would I be? What do me and my friends like? How do we respond? And so I think it helps you a lot with your communication skills, kind of your self-discipline. If you're a really great athlete, self-analysis. If even for something that's a non-team sport, like you want to get into like a track or a field type of thing, you have to be able to look at yourself critically and make adjustments. And when that just comes across when you have a job in your life, how can you communicate with your coworkers? Can you critically analyze yourself and say, what do I need to do better so that I can perform better?
And, you mentioned something really great because I am not motivated by coaches that yelled and screamed and degraded me. Yeah. And I've had some growing up in the very sports that I played. And I realized that about myself. And then I realized, well, where was I raised? Like my mom, when she was angry at us, even my dad, they lowered their voice. Oh. So you knew you were in trouble. So the yelling and screaming to motivate me only alienated me in terms of, or if they really got me mad, they thought they were motivating me, but I was like, I'm going to prove it to myself, know? So it was kind of like that mismatch. So I know that, okay, I know for me, I will never, don't call me a name. I will haunt you to your grave. If you call me a name, I will remember it. So I know that for me, it's almost like the art of war. If I'm ever angry, I will never call you a name because if you do that to me, I'll remember that to the day you die. But it tells you so much about yourself, doesn't it?
It does. It really helps you explore a lot of different facets of yourself growing up. And you might try a sport, might not be the sport for you. And it might be the coach, might be the teammates, might just be how the sport's designed. Like for me, growing up, I played a lot of soccer, basketball, a little bit of volleyball, but a lot of the stuff I did was very free flowing. Soccer, yeah, you kind of stop, but you don't really. And then I played football and I immediately fell in love with it. And a lot of people think I'm crazy because it reminds me of tennis. And you're like, tennis and football?
Yeah, that's curious to me too.
Exactly. But it has a lot of the same flow. In tennis, just like football, you have your play, you have your volley. You go back and forth against your opponent. And a lot of times in football, I played primarily defensive end. You're seeing the same tackle over and over again, maybe a tight end. But no matter where you are on the field, there's usually one or two people. So you have the game within the game. And so for tennis, you have your opponent, you volley, and then the volley's over. You quickly have to analyze, what did I do? What did they do? What do I think is going to happen next? And move on from it. And with football, I had that. I had that cerebral component that I didn't find in soccer. Soccer was run, 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 pass, pass, pass. There was a little bit of maybe connecting and jiving with the other people on the field, kind of knowing where they were going to be. But it was very different with football. I had more time to think about and analyze. And so for me, football just, when you added that along with the physical aspect, because I was kind of a physical soccer player and I was out there, I was going to muscle you off the ball. And so when I added that with the physical challenge of it, it really became the sport that I just fell in love with.
So the second thing that you brought up, I was like, yes, when you mentioned you grew up such an avid Vikings fan. And I think the NFL over the past 10 years or so have really realized that women not only are huge fans, but they know their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So to take it from admiring the men's pro game to actually hitting someone and tackling someone, how was that for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, like I said, when I went to that first open practice, I was hooked. And I couldn't wait for that first game where I could really just unload on somebody. Because, they always said, I kind of figured out when they say give 110%. And you always hear the people, how can you give 110%, right? And I kind of figured it out. Well, 100% is what you go at practice when you don't want to hurt your teammate. 110% is when you really don't care about the person on the other team. It's like, sorry, I'm not here to, end your playing days, but I'm here to win. And so that I still remember going out there and making that first big hit and being like, wow, that is that. And even in practice, I remember my first real tackle. They tossed the running back at the ball and said, come at her 100%. And I was like, whoa, this is intense. And the sense of self-confidence and pride when I was able to take her down. Yeah. And she delivered me a blow. She was not backing off at all. And so just the amount of that confidence that it built. And we've had a lot of women who've come through and they've played for us a year or two and they said, this gave me my self-confidence to start my own business or to go back to school, to get my doctorate, to expand out. And so, sports does that for you, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child growing up.
And then you know what it's like the next day after a game.
Yes, yeah.
The car accident day, that's what I call it.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. You wake up, and I remember after my first game, I was, woke up in the next morning, all chipper. This is great. I had my first game. We went out for brunch, and partway through brunch, I turned to my husband. I said, "We got to go home now." I said, "You're just dipping me in ice." It hit in, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not moving." That's why every once in a while, somebody comes up with the bright idea of having a practice the day after a game or even 2 days after a game. And we're like, no, maybe chalk talk. Yeah. But even the day after, I don't know if mentally I can really pay attention enough. Coaches are talking now about this year about maybe doing the morning after doing film, which I think there's a lot of benefit for that. And that utilizing film is something that's really propelled us ahead. But I was like, you got to make sure that the athletes are in the right mindset the next morning. So, because it is a big thing with the physical wear and tear on the btake
Laura, I wish that we could take a lot of the fans of any football, especially when it's like the pros, like you were saying, take the Twitter trolls that just troll the players like, oh, he's hurt again. I'm like, did you happen to see that game? It was a physical game where they do take Monday to look at film and then kind of heal up, and then they have Tuesday off. I remember a couple people saying, well, they don't even practice on Monday. I'm like, No.
No.
Or, oh, that's only this and that. I'm like, it's only if we threw you out there, you'd be crying before the first quarter was even over. It's that realization of now, it's even more of a respect for the guys and the women that do it professionally, right?
Yeah. And I remember even once you put your pads on, because we always start without pads and everybody learns everything and you think you're doing great. And then you put this helmet on with this huge face mask and then you're like, how am I supposed to see the ball? Mm-hmm. You're running down the field as a wide receiver and all of a sudden your vision's limited. And I actually remember one time running on and not being able to find the ball and it just doink right off the back of my helmet, and same things with the pads and everything you're starting to be a little bit restriction on your movements that you normally would be able to do, and you have to learn how to move in them. And it gives you a whole new respect for the game and a whole new respect for the players out there that are playing at every level.
When we first started this conversation, I saw that when Whoopi Goldberg and Jungo TV decided to come up with the All Women's Sports Network, so it's AWSN, which might just be WSN by the time people just put the apostrophe, right? But when they came to the Football League and said, we want to put your games on TV, was there much discussion with the owners? How did that all go down, and how excited are you for that?
I don't think we had. So I actually sit on the board for the league.
Okay.
So I don't think we had a lot of discussion with the owners. I think for us it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we want to be part of this. If you're investing in women's sports, like, yes, if you're going to invest in us, we want to be part of this. It's something that we're pretty excited about. There is a women's sports network out there that's been growing the last couple of years, and we've been on that. And I think last year because we have games of the week that are picked up by a lot of these stations, between that and our championship that was on ESPN2 last year, it's something like 1.3 million viewers of watching the game. So it's not anything that's small. And we keep getting just so many different outlets that want to come, and they're eager for content, and they want women's sports, and the consumer, the fan, they want women's sports. They've seen what's happened in college basketball right now, and it's entertaining. And I think that's the biggest thing that people talk about is like, well, why would I watch that when I can watch the NFL? And it's like, well, why can I watch that when I can watch something else? Well, why do you watch college sports then? Why do you watch the Minnesota State high school hockey tournament if you can watch NHL? Because it's entertaining. And these things are entertaining. It has the highs and lows. It has the big sack. It has the great one-handed catch. It has the drama at the end of the game. I mean, I know last year our fans, they were on edge. We played St. Louis, who's probably our biggest rival in the league right now. And it came down to the end of the game. It was back and forth scoring. We had the ball, and we're down by 1. Do we kick the field goal, get the tie, go into overtime? Do we go for 2? And so there's that all back and forth. And then when we go for 2, are we going to get it? And what's the coach going to play? And then, of course, everyone talking afterwards. Well, did the coach call the right play, not the right play? And so you have all of those components that people love about sports. So we did not make the 2-point conversion. No. I can tell you that right now.
It was heartbreaking. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to lose, by that small. But and then of course, you go for, are they going to go for the onside kick? Mm-hmm. So you still have all those elements that you see at every level of football that make it entertaining for the fan.
Yeah, we were watching it in our sports department. Yeah, because it was on ESPN, so we get to watch it. And I was like, come on. And guys and everyone, they're all kind of huddled around the TV. And we're all like, oh. Yeah. And then inevitably someone goes, that's Minnesota sports for you.
Yeah. And
nobody in Minnesota would ever say that.
No, never. But I also took that as a triumph, right? Yeah. To be in that conversation.
Exactly.
Of, that's Minnesota sports. Or yeah, that's Minnesota professional sports.
Minnesota's
for you, right
professional
there.
sports.
And
exactly.
People that had some people that weren't even in the sports department just walking through were glued to it, right? Because it has all those elements. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been wonderful. We brought a new head coach in last year, Coach Connor. And she has been amazing. She came through our ranks as a player and is a fabulous person. She got the one of the Bill Walsh fellowships, diversity fellowships, and did an internship with the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow.
She had been a player and a coach with us and then did the fellowship there, came back, coached another year, and then stepped into the head coach role. And she's done a fantastic job. I think it helps a lot. Sometimes I think having women lead women can be helpful, but I think more importantly is having maybe somebody who learned the sport as an adult, who transferred from other sports and had to adjust on how they were playing that sport. I think that is something that's probably unique to us, is that we don't have as much of that feeder system. I think with flag football now, that might change a little bit, because we're going to get more and more of our athletes that will come to us knowing what a 1st and 10 is, knowing, how to throw a football, how to catch a football. And so I think some of those skills will start coming in the door, but we take our rookies pretty much from scratch, teach them everything, teach them their stance, teach them all the rules. And so the rookie year is a lot for our players, but they step up and do a phenomenal job. And most of them are hooked. Most of them they're back. I would say probably the average person probably plays at least 3 years with us.
Wow.
Let's handle the business of the business. More with Dawn and Laura up here in a second. We do want to thank Rudy Luther Toyota. Again, they've been sponsoring our women's sports shows across the network for a long time. Love having them here on Dawn of Sports with Dawn Mitchell.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities. The more I talk to people in the advertising and philanthropic worlds, the more good things I hear about Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. I am happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities has chosen Minnesota Bound and this podcast as a place to help spread the word. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And yes, now I am going to talk about Natrium. We had Andrea Yak, our friend, was on the show last week, and she texted me the other day, says she went to Natrium. She's trying out a bunch of the products. I keep getting that from, I'm hearing that from a lot of my friends. They hear about it on the podcast. They go try it out. They like it. There's so many things. It can help you with inflammation, sleep, gut health. It can just be fun. You can get it candy, gummy, balm, oil, dip, or liquid form. The liquid forms a million different kinds of drinks, different flavors, different combinations of CBD or THC. Just if you go there, and you can go to a Natrium store or a Wildflower store, you'll go talk to the sales associates. They're very knowledgeable, and there are so many options. You need somebody knowledgeable to guide you when you first get there. Once you know what you like, go to natrium.com, order there. Highly recommend the experience, highly recommend the products. Very few ingredients, healthy stuff. Check it out. Also, personal note. One cool thing about my band playing at Glicks is usually Dawn comes and brings a lot of women journalists from the Twin Cities. Again, we're playing Friday night, 9:30 at Glicks. That's November 22nd, 9:30 at Glicks. I know Dawn's going to be there. If you're in the area, come by and join us, and we'll see you there.
And you know what this means? I really like you, because I believe I've got a 6 a.m. flight the next day. And I get out of work at like 10.
Oh my goodness.
So
okay, well, I apologize in advance.
Yeah. So gone are the days where you can just be like, oh, I just won't sleep and go on the plane. That's a no. But yes.
We'll play quiet for you.
Yes. No, you can play as loud as you want. I just have to I won't Irish goodbye you. I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to leave early.
Wave and get out. Yeah.
Oh, so, one of the reasons, Laura, that I started this podcast too was women in sports. And yes, it kind of builds your confidence, but also I was raised with 4 amazing brothers. My dad was very supportive. And You mentioned it earlier. You said, like you're halfway through brunch and you turn to your husband and was like, I got to go. To have a husband that not only supports you and is a co-owner, someone that champions you, how important is it? Because in this world, sometimes if you're for something, you have to be against something. And so sometimes women are like, oh, it's all women and all men are dogs. And I don't adhere to any of that because there have been so many amazing men in my life that have helped me and still to this day support me. Sometimes I'll be honest, if there's a group of men I don't know and a group of women I don't know, I'm going over to the men. Because I feel more comfortable. That's just how I'm built because I don't know anyone in this room, but I can have a conversation of sports with these guys and start off on that level. How is it for you to be so supported? And what support have you seen team-wise that you've received from men?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, my husband, James, he's, when I first told him I was coming home and playing football, I think he just thought it was a little bit of a midlife crisis, and just kind of like, sure you are. You go ahead and do that, And for him, and then I came home and told him that we're acquiring a football team. And he was like, whoa, slow your roll a little bit. But he, so there might have been a little bit of tugging at first to come along, but he's jumped in and he's all for it and he loves it. And for us, having that support from him early on, when even though he didn't think, he thought it was me my midlife crisis, he was still there.
Right.
He was still there and said, "Yeah, if this was what you want to do, go for it." Mm-hmm. And not bringing me down or pointing other things out. There might have been a comment or two there about blow up my knee, but
you get that from anybody.
You get that from anybody. But he was there from day one. And then when we got into running the business, he's I wouldn't just say he's my supporter, he's my partner in it.
Yes.
And so for us, it's been a lot of fun because there's a lot of give and take. He's a very intelligent man, so it's fun to talk to them about, what do you think we should do about this? Should we be, what are we going to do about Black Friday? What are we going to do about this? How should we approach this? Do you think we need to expand our coaching staff or expand our footprint somewhere? And so it's kind of fun to have those conversations with him and be able to have that, on the level of equals. And that's been fantastic. Other males out there, obviously we've had fantastic coaches that have come into our organization and some other males that are huge with running the league and some of the fellow owners. I think for us, particularly some of our coaches, one of our early on defensive coordinator, Coach Damian Topping, he was the defensive coordinator when I came in as my rookie year, and we're still friends today. Mm-hmm. And he is a huge supporter and helping to support the league, and he's on our advisory board for the league. And so having people like that see us as equals. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, okay, I'm just going to support the women. It's like, right. No, you guys are legitimate. And that's made a big difference. For us, we do have a lot of women on staff who came through our ranks as players, which I think is important because I think it's, like I said, it's how did I learn this sport as an adult? Mm-hmm. What were my obstacles? Because I have a full-time job and I have kids, and so they can relate to that. But I also think that we don't want to have silo thinking and only thinking about what has already happened in our organization. We need ideas from outside. And so bringing in, men and even women from other organizations bring in a different perspective all the time. And so we still need to have that male perspective and that male support if we really want to be the best of the best.
And what I really love too is it's a lot of time and commitment. It's not just, okay, I kind of just do this on the side. No, you already have a full-time job. You have a full-time life. Yep. And then you have this football that requires practice, that requires, like you're saying, going to the brain side and all right, what are we going to do for Black Friday? What are we going to do for this? It's you need someone that can be an equal partner on all levels of that because it's not for the faint of heart at all.
Yeah, it is not. And I mean, for anybody out there, I would say you have to find that person in your life that's your ride or die, but that person that knows when you need a hug and when you need a kick in the butt. Mm-hmm. When they say, come on, Laura, get off the pity party, or, hey, you need to go do this, stop procrastinating. But also that person that knows when you're having a rough day and you just need a little hug and support. And when you can find that in that person, that person's it. That's it for life. And it doesn't matter what your other differences are. That's just invaluable, and you can't give that up.
How cool is it to see your players, too, with their kids and in some cases, like grandkids
Yep.
that are there supporting them. And that's the example that these young children are growing up seeing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And not just for the young girls, but the young boys.
Yeah.
They're growing up too. In fact, we had on another team, they had their, one of the players had her young boy that always came to practice with her, always in tow. And then he finally came running up one day and said, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. And he said, what? Did you know boys can play football too?
Oh, that's
because from his exposure, it had been all women's football.
Oh, that's
and
terrific.
So it is a different thing. And we see these women come in, and they have great support networks. Sometimes the team becomes their support network. And we're really, we have a saying that we say, family on three, or, Vixen on 3, family on 6, 1, 2, 3, Vixen, 4, 5, 6, family. And we really mean it because a lot of people come in, we're from a lot of different aspects of life, a lot of diversity on the team, and we learn to really grow together. I think, sometimes people ask me like, why do women want to play football? And I just come back and say, why do human beings want to play football? Because it's the same reason.
Right.
And through sports, we talked about a little bit earlier, but the bonding that you get, a lot of times it's the same bonding that maybe you can get like in the military level, serving with somebody. Mm-hmm. When you're down in the trenches playing, especially a sport like football, those are your people for life. And you get to make those relationships. You get to rely on those people, and it never leaves you. People that I run into that were just around my rookie year, and I haven't seen them. They're still there. They send me messages. They still support the team, and it's that kind of bonding that will never go away. And for your kids to grow up seeing that, that's fantastic. Whether it's little boys or little girls, it just really opens their eyes. Last year, we had kind of a cool thing where one of our original Vixen from 1999, her daughter came out to the games with her mom, and so now she has her daughter there, and her daughter's coming out to be a water girl for us and being involved in the game. So it's not just for our current players, but for our alumni as well.
How would one be able to join? Like you said, you just kind of went to an open practice.
Yep.
Do you have open practices lined up now? What's your schedule like right now?
Well, we just finished tryouts. So we have, I think, 76 athletes that are on the roster right now for this year. And so, we're still looking for maybe a few key people, but every fall we basically run open tryouts. So you just have to go online, register, come. We usually have a couple different sessions. People are welcome to come to all 3 if they want to. And because sometimes if you haven't done football drills before, it can be a little intimidating. We sprinkle our vets in there so they have some examples and kind of ease the anxiety with it a little bit. But like at our tryouts, we bench press just like they do in the NFL Combine. We set up a bench press, and some of the women come in, they've never bench pressed before, and it's kind of fun watching. Sometimes even from the first tryout to the last tryout, they're going to the gym, they're starting to bench press because they want to show us that they can improve even a month later. And so I think that's something that's been fun. And then we have little awards we give out. So our veterans, they're out there trying to see if they can increase their max in the off season and things like that. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, because people don't know what they don't know. If they had never done it before, right? They need someone to kind of lead them to the water, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And even me growing up, I had never really threw a football. I had always gone out there and kind of caught a lot, but I was very intimidated to throw a football. So, and it's not, everything else is just a round ball. And you kind of throw it and things like that. But for women growing up and young girls growing up, it's very intimidating to pick something up like that, or weightlifting, to start bench pressing for the first time. It can be very intimidating. You don't want to look, stupid at the gym. We all look at that machine and go, what is that one for? I don't know, and kind of wait to see if someone else uses it. And so it's one of the things we work on is building that environment where it's okay to fail. Because if you don't fail, you're not going to learn. And if you ultimately want to be successful, it's your failures stacked on top of each other that leads you to that eventual pathway to success.
Oh, that's awesome. I know in the backyard, my nickname for growing up with 4 brothers and all the kids in the neighborhood, we'd either play in the backyard or in the middle of the street, yell car, get out of the way. Because going to the park that was only 2 blocks away was a little too far for us. I was button hook. And so my brother would take the palm of his hand and he goes, okay, so you're going to go right down the right-hand sideline. You're going to go into the end zone, but turn around and come back in on the left side. So I was button hook, and that's always where I was. So I was scrappy. I wasn't very big. Skinny as all get out, but I was fast. So button hook would probably isn't even legal to go into the end zone and come back out. But that's
just
what
take
I
a left
did.
of the Chevy. Everything will work out
That's
fine.
all he did. So I was
Take a
button
left
hook.
and so, yeah. I was fortunate enough. I actually grew across the street from Robbinsdale Cooper High School,
Oh, nice.
across from the athletic fields.
Yeah.
So that was just a gift to me growing up because we didn't have to be in the street. You just crossed the street and there was your fields to play in. And we had uprights and we had soccer goals and we had baseball diamonds. And it was just a lot of fun growing up. I'm a child of the 70s, so it was come home when it's dark, and actually I take that back. We had to be in the chair at 6 o'clock. Dinner was 6 o'clock on the nose every night, no matter what, salad, milk, meat, potatoes, right? But then afterwards, if it was summer, you were right back out there and then make sure you were home when those street lights came on. So it was a great way to grow up. I think nowadays, when I look at some of the stuff the kids have nowadays, they have their own advantages. I didn't have a parent or a coach really out there teaching me.
Right.
And these kids, I think, God, man, I wish I could have gone to some camps.
Right.
I wish I would have had someone
Exactly.
investing me in a little bit as an athlete. And we can go too far sometimes with kids that days, but they each have their own uniquenesses and their advantages and disadvantages.
Well, before we wrap things up, how can people show up for games? I know so many people are like, well, where are the games and what time are they? And I never knew that there was a women's league. I would totally be there.
Oh, yeah.
Where can they find you this year?
This year, we're working on our stadium right now, working on our contracts. So our schedule, though, will be coming out. I think we're looking at right around Super Bowl. Super Bowl Sunday is when they should be launching our schedule.
Nice.
And so our season is in the spring, so our games start mid-April, April, May, June. It goes quick. I'll tell you really quick. We only do a 6-game schedule because it allows us to travel. There are 60 teams across the nation, but they're tiered out. So we play at the highest level, which is WFA Pro. And I think there's only a dozen teams that are at that level. So we're traveling, St. Louis, California. Last year we were out in Washington, D.C. We got Colorado. But St. Louis and Omaha are the two closest teams to us. So we do travel is probably one of our biggest expenses that we have.
Wow.
So we have a 6-game season, which goes really quick, but we have 3 home games, which are really exciting. And then, because we've worked hard and put in the work and we're wonderful, we usually are hosting at least 1 or 2 playoff games, which is fantastic. Gives the fans a few more opportunities. But check us out on social media. We're on all the major platforms. That's where you'll find all the information on when the games are, how to get to the games, where you can watch online. And, if you love women's sports and want to support the team, supporting us on social media is one of the best things that you can do.
By the way, I highly recommend, I'm not saying people should delete their Twitter. A lot of people have, but I'm not recommending that. Stay on there if you like. Blue Sky is kind of the place to be these days. I think it's going to be really good for women and women's sports. Fewer trolls, less nastiness. And I know everybody at Talk North's migrating over there. So jump on Blue Sky, support the Vixen.
Yeah, and Minnesota Vixen. Well, I also love on Instagram because I'm such a visual person.
Yeah.
The coolest logo, a great name, like just Minnesota Vixen.
That's right.
You took one word that was meant for something else years ago and you gave it power.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I wish I could take credit, but that was around before my time, but we've carried it on. We continue to carry the torch.
Oh, you little vixen, you. I had to do it. But it's powerful. I love it. Laura, thank you so much for being on our show. And I'm looking forward to this season and championship.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Laura.
much. Appreciate being here today.